There comes a moment in every life when the noise of doubt must be silenced, when the weight of fear must be shaken off, and when the voice of purpose must be answered. Destiny does not knock politely. It shakes the very walls of your comfort zone. And if you will not rise to meet it, it will pass you by and look for someone with the courage to believe. You were not created to shrink back. You were not designed to live small, to crawl when you were called to soar. The very breath in your lungs is proof that heaven still expects something out of you. That dream you buried, that vision you ignored, that promise you doubted, they are all waiting for you to stand up and say, this is my time. This is my season. This is my destiny. Don't you understand? Fear is a liar. Every excuse you've been rehearsing is just a chain around your mind. Break it. Walk through the storm, not around it. The pain that tried to break you is the very fire that will shape you. Destiny is not for the faint of heart. It is for the bold, the relentless, the ones who refuse to die with potentials still locked inside of them. If you are going to walk boldly into destiny, you must make up your mind that yesterday's failures are not today's identity. You must learn to thank the doors that closed because they were never meant to contain your future. You must silence the critics who could not see the vision because it was never given to them. It was given to you. Lift your head, straighten your back, take one step, then another, and then another. Heaven will not move until you do. The path will not open until your feet touch the ground. Boldness is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear have the last word. And when you walk in boldness, destiny will rise to meet you. Deep down within every human being there is a stirring, a whisper, an undeniable pull towards something greater than what the eye can see. It is that inner voice that keeps waking you in the middle of the night, that thought you cannot shake no matter how many distractions you build around it. It is the seed of purpose planted in the soil of your soul before you ever took your first breath. You were not born by accident, you were sent. And the fact that you are still here, still breathing, still standing after everything you've endured is proof that your calling is alive and waiting to be recognized. The greatest tragedy is not death, but life lived without ever discovering why you were placed on this earth. Many wander through years chasing survival, but never stepping into significance. You can work, you can build, you can accumulate, but if you never uncover the reason behind your existence, there will always be an emptiness gnawing at your soul. That emptiness is not depression, it is not failure, it is the echo of a calling that refuses to be silenced. Your destiny will not rest until you awaken to the truth that you were created with intention. But recognizing your calling will not come in the noise of the crowd. It is often found in the stillness, in the quiet moments when your heart begins to yearn for something different, something higher, something eternal. For some it comes through pain when life strips away the illusions and leaves you standing bare before the reality of who you are meant to be. For others it comes through moments of revelation when suddenly the pieces of your past start to make sense and you realize that everything was pointing you toward this moment. No matter how it comes, the calling will always reveal itself if you are willing to listen. The reason so many people miss their destiny is not because it was never given, but because they never recognized it when it showed up. We expect our calling to come with trumpets, lightning, and grand announcements, but it often comes in whispers, in nudges, in subtle shifts that call you out of the ordinary. The dream that won't leave you alone, the passion that burns even when no one else believes, the burden that weighs heavy on your heart for a cause bigger than yourself. These are the fingerprints of destiny on your life. To recognize your calling, you must dare to believe that you are more than what others see. People may have labeled you according to your past, your mistakes, or your limitations, but labels are too small to contain the fullness of your purpose. Your calling is not bound by where you were born, who your parents were, or what environment you came from. Destiny does not consult your background before deciding your future. It simply waits for you to open your eyes and accept that there is something greater inside you than the circumstances around you. Recognizing your calling requires courage, because once you see it, you can never unsee it. Once you hear that voice calling you higher, you will never again be satisfied with mediocrity. The same places that once comforted, you will begin to feel too small. The same conversations that once entertained, you will begin to feel empty. That is the stretching of destiny, pulling you away from the ordinary toward the extraordinary. And it will not let you go until you embrace it. Your calling will always be connected to impact beyond yourself. It is never just about you being comfortable, rich, or successful. It is about you being positioned to affect lives, to shift atmospheres, to leave a mark that outlives your time on this earth. If your dream is only about your personal gain, it is not destiny, it is ambition. Destiny always calls you to something bigger, something that requires you to serve, to give, to pour out what has been placed in you. There is a reason you feel unsettled where others feel comfortable. There is a reason you see solutions to problems that others ignore. There is a reason you are drawn to certain causes, certain dreams, certain visions. That reason is your calling trying to introduce itself. Do not dismiss it. Do not suppress it. Do not compare it to the path of others. Recognize it, honor it, and lean into it, because it is the compass that will guide you through the storms of life. The recognition of calling is the first step to destiny, but it is the most critical one. Until you see yourself as chosen, you will keep living as though you are ordinary. Until you recognize your calling, you will keep asking for permission to be what you already are. Once your eyes are opened, no amount of fear, no opinion of people, no weight of the past can blind you again. Fear is the silent thief that robs more dreams than failure ever will. It does not always roar loudly. Sometimes it whispers in your mind, convincing you that you are not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough to pursue what has been placed in your heart. Excuses are its closest allies, wrapping themselves around your potential and keeping you chained to a life of mediocrity. Together, fear and excuses build invisible walls that keep people from stepping into their destiny. You may not see the chains, but you feel them every time you shrink back from an opportunity, every time you silence your own voice, every time you talk yourself out of the very thing you prayed for. Defying fear does not mean you will never feel afraid. It means you choose not to bow to it, not to let it dictate your decisions, not to allow it to determine how far you can go. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to keep moving even while your knees are trembling. Fear will always appear when destiny is near, because the enemy of your soul knows that if you ever step forward, you will be unstoppable. Every excuse you rehearse is just fear disguised in logic. You say you do not have enough time, not enough money, not enough education, not enough connections. But the truth is you have exactly what you need to begin. The rest will come once you take the step. Excuses are comfortable. They allow you to hide in the shadows of potential without ever risking failure. But the same excuses that protect you from disappointment also shield you from success. As long as you keep telling yourself why you cannot, you will never discover that you actually can. Fear tells you that stepping out will cost too much, but it never tells you the cost of staying the same. The price of an action is far greater than the price of courage. Every day you delay is a day wasted, a day where destiny stands waiting at the door, but you refuse to open it. Defying fear requires confronting the lies you have believed about yourself. Somewhere along the way, you internalize voices that told you you were too broken, too flawed, too inadequate to achieve greatness. Those voices echo inside your head whenever opportunity presents itself. But the fact that you feel fear is proof that something powerful is on the other side. Fear is often the clearest indicator that you are moving in the right direction because it only fights what threatens it. If your dream was insignificant, fear would not bother to resist it. The size of your fear is often a reflection of the size of your destiny. Excuses often hide behind perfectionism. You wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect resources, the perfect confirmation before you move. But there will never be a perfect moment. Waiting for perfect is just another way of surrendering to fear. Start where you are with what you have and trust that the rest will align as you move forward. Excuses are a form of procrastination that feels justified, but destiny does not wait for you to get comfortable. It demands boldness, it demands risk, it demands that you defy the safety of your excuses and step into the unknown. Fear thrives in isolation. When you are alone with your doubts, they grow louder, stronger, more convincing. But when you surround yourself with people of faith, vision, and courage, their voices will drown out the lies of fear. Community has a way of reminding you of your strength when you forget it. Do not hide your dreams in silence because silence feeds fear. Speak them out loud, declare them, share them with people who believe in you, and watch how fear loses its grip. Excuses often sound reasonable, but they are the language of limitation. They keep you comfortable in a prison that looks safe but kills your potential. Every time you say, "I can't," you reinforce the walls around your life. But every time you say, "I can," even when your voice shakes, you chip away at those walls. Fear tells you to look at the obstacles, but faith tells you to look at the possibilities. Excuses keep you focused on what you lack, but destiny requires you to focus on what you already carry within. Defying fear is a daily decision. You cannot conquer it once and for all, but you can refuse to let it dictate your life. Every bold step you take weakens its power. Every excuse you overcome expands your capacity. You may not feel ready, but readiness is not a requirement for destiny. Movement is. When you step out in faith, strength will meet you on the way. Fear will always knock at the door, but you do not have to let it in. Excuses will always present themselves, but you can choose to rise above them and move forward anyway. Failure is one of life's greatest teachers, yet it is the one classroom most people run away from. We live in a world that celebrates success but hides its scars, where people showcase victories but rarely reveal the painful process it took to get there. Because of this, many assume that failure disqualifies them from greatness, when in reality it is often the very thing that qualifies them. Every setback, every disappointment, every closed door is not the end of your story, but the preparation ground for your destiny. Failure is not a period, it is a comma, a pause in the sentence of your life that makes the meaning stronger once the story continues. When you fall short, it is not a signal that you are unworthy. It is evidence that you tried, that you stepped out of the boat, that you had the courage to move towards something greater. The ones who never fail are the ones who never risk, who never dream, who never stretch themselves beyond the safety of what they already know. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the pathway that leads to it. The lessons learned in failure cannot be taught in comfort. They are only revealed in the pressure of disappointment, in the weight of missed opportunities, in the reality of human limitation. To embrace failure as preparation, you must first shift your perspective. Stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? There is always a lesson hidden in loss. Sometimes the lesson is patience, sometimes it is resilience, sometimes it is strategy, sometimes it is humility. But there is always something to be gained if you refuse to waste the pain. Failure will expose weaknesses that success would have allowed you to ignore. It will humble you so that when you do arrive at your destiny, you arrive with character strong enough to sustain the weight of your calling. Greatness is never birthed in one triumphant moment. It is forged in countless trials, in repeated attempts, in seasons where it seemed like nothing was working. Every successful leader, innovator, or visionary carries a history of failures that shape them into who they are. The wisdom you admire in others was not learned in their victories, but in the mistakes they made along the way. Embracing failure is refusing to let it define you, refusing to let it convince you that you have reached the end, and instead allowing it to refine you. Sometimes failure is not even about you. It is about redirecting you. The door you wanted to open may have led you somewhere beneath your true purpose. The opportunity that slipped away may have been a distraction dressed as success. The relationship that crumbled may have been protection in disguise. When you view failure as preparation, you begin to see that every disappointment is making room for alignment, shaping your steps so that you are positioned exactly where you need to be. Failure also trains your endurance. Destiny requires people who can withstand pressure, people who will not collapse the moment adversity strikes. If everything came easily, you would not develop the strength needed to carry the weight of your calling. Failure stretches your capacity. It teaches you how to rise after falling, how to rebuild after losing, how to trust again after being let down. Each time you fail and get back up, you become stronger, wiser, and more unshakable. The truth is, failure hurts. It wounds the pride, it shakes confidence, it brings embarrassment, but pain is not wasted when it is processed correctly. Scars are not signs of weakness. They are signs that you survived. They are proof that what tried to destroy you did not succeed. Every scar carries a story, and those stories become your testimony, the evidence you carry that will inspire and strengthen others. People may admire your success, but they will be changed by your scars. Destiny is never handed to you polished and complete. It is shaped in the workshop of trial and error. Failure chisels away at your impatience, sands down your arrogance, and molds you into someone capable of carrying greatness with grace. If you refuse to embrace failure, you also refuse the training that equips you for the next level. Avoiding failure is avoiding growth. The very things you are running from may be the very things preparing you for what you prayed for. Each failure is a seed planted in the soil of resilience. In time, it produces wisdom, character, strategy, and vision. And when you look back, you realize that the path to destiny was not built on unbroken success, but on the lessons carved into your soul by every single fall you endured. Limitations are prisons that often do not come with visible bars. They exist in the mind, reinforced by voices from the past, by environments that tried to define you, by experiences that told you what you could not do. Many people live their entire lives within invisible cages, convinced that the boundaries they see around them are permanent, when in reality they are nothing more than illusions. To break free from limitations, you must first confront the lies that have been planted in your thinking. Somewhere along the way, someone told you that you were not capable, not qualified, not worthy, and you believed them. But destiny does not ask for permission from people who cannot see it. The limitations others placed on you are only as strong as your agreement with them. The most dangerous limitations are not the external ones, but the internal ones. A person can overcome poverty, lack of education, or rejection if their mind is free. But when the mind itself is bound, no amount of opportunity can unlock destiny. Limitation begins when you believe that what you see is all there is, when you accept that the ceiling above you is unbreakable, when you reduce yourself to the expectations of others. Breaking free begins with a renewed perspective, with the bold decision to believe that more is possible, that greater is within reach, that the walls around you are not permanent, but temporary. Some limitations are inherited. Families can pass down not only their values, but their fears, their insecurities, their cycles of brokenness. Generational patterns whisper to you that you will never go further than those before you. But every destiny requires someone willing to be the first, someone willing to break the mold, someone willing to say that the history of the family does not have to be the prophecy of the future. You may be the one called to break chains that have lasted for decades, to open doors for the generations coming after you. Breaking free from limitations is not just about you. It is about everyone who will walk the path you create. Limitations often disguise themselves as comfort. The familiar can feel safe, even when it is suffocating. People cling to what they know because stepping into the unknown feels terrifying, but destiny does not dwell in comfort zones. If you want to experience the fullness of your purpose, you must be willing to step beyond the familiar and into the territory of risk. Fear will try to convince you that staying small is safer, but safety is an enemy of growth. The shell protects the chick only for a season, but if it never breaks free, it will die inside what once kept it safe. In the same way, the comfort you cling to can become the very thing that kills your potential. Limitations can also come through comparison. Looking at what others have achieved, how quickly they moved, how easily they seem to succeed, can make you believe that you are behind, that you are less than, that you cannot measure up. But destiny is not a race against anyone else. Your path is uniquely yours, your timing is divinely designed, and your journey cannot be compared to another. Comparison is a thief that shrinks your vision until you can no longer see what is possible for you. To break free, you must refuse to measure yourself by the standards of others and instead rise to the standard of what you were created to be. There are also limitations that come from wounds. Past failures, betrayals, and disappointments create invisible fences around the heart. Every time you try to step forward, you remember the pain of when you tried before and you retreat. But pain is not meant to be a cage. It is meant to be a lesson. The fact that you survived what hurt you proves that you are stronger than it. The enemy uses pain to convince you that you should never try again, but destiny demands that you rise above the memory of yesterday's wounds and claim the promise of tomorrow's victories. Breaking free from limitations requires action as much as it requires belief. You cannot just think differently, you must move differently. Every time you take a step in faith, the walls around you weaken. Every bold decision chips away at the boundaries that once held you captive. The more you act outside the box, the more you realize the box was never real to begin with. What once seemed impossible becomes normal when you refuse to be defined by limitation. There will always be voices that try to remind you of who you were, of what you lacked, of where you came from, but those voices are powerless. Once you recognize the truth of who you are, You are not confined to the labels placed on you. You are not restricted by the failures behind you. You are not trapped by the opinions of those who could not see your vision. The only power limitation has over you is the power you give it. When you decide that you are more than what has been said about you, more than what has happened to you, more than the ceiling above you, then the prison doors swing open. Action is the language of destiny. Dreams without movement remain fantasies. Prayers without steps remain wishes. And vision without execution remains imagination. Many people spend their lives waiting for a perfect moment. But destiny is not unlocked by waiting. It is unlocked by doing. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the determination to act in spite of it. Every person who has walked into greatness did so with trembling hands, with racing hearts, with unanswered questions, yet they moved anyway. Courage is not about having all the answers. It is about trusting that clarity will come once your feet begin to move. Taking action with courage means refusing to be paralyzed by uncertainty. If you wait until you feel fully ready, you will never begin. There will always be a reason to delay, always an obstacle to point to, always a doubt whispering in your ear. Courage silences those doubts by saying, I will step out anyway. Destiny requires you to be a participant, not a spectator. Watching others live boldly will never substitute for your own obedience to the call on your life. You must decide that inaction is no longer an option, that standing still is more dangerous than moving forward. Action requires risk, and risk always carries the possibility of failure. But failure is not fatal. It is part of the training ground of courage. Every step you take teaches you something new. You may fall, but you will rise wiser. You may stumble, but you will learn balance. You may face resistance, but resistance builds strength. Courage is not reckless, it is intentional. It does not ignore fear. It defies fear. It does not deny risk. It accepts risk as the price of progress. Courageous action is a declaration that your destiny is worth more than your comfort zone, worth more than your excuses, worth more than the approval of people who do not understand your vision. Taking action with courage requires faith. Faith is stepping on a bridge that you cannot see and believing it will hold you. Faith is moving even when the path looks uncertain. You may not know every step ahead, but you know the direction you must go. That inner pull, that divine prompting, that vision that won't leave you alone, it is guiding you towards something greater. But it will remain locked until you move. The door does not open until you walk toward it. The provision does not appear until you step into the assignment. The strength does not rise until you begin to act. Action is what activates destiny. Sometimes courage is simply taking the first step, writing the first page of the book, making the first phone call, applying for the opportunity, speaking up when your voice wants to stay silent. Small steps compound into big victories. The giant is not defeated in one swing. It is defeated by the courage to face it. Courage builds momentum. Once you take the first step, the second becomes easier. And before you know it, you are running toward what you once thought was impossible. Courageous action will always be tested by opposition. People will question you, criticize you, even mock you for daring to believe in more. But opposition is not a sign you are wrong. It is a sign you are moving in the right direction. The higher you climb, the more resistance you will feel, but the resistance is proof of progress. Do not let the noise of doubters drown out the call of destiny. Your courage will silence critics, not because you argued with them, but because you proved them wrong by what you accomplished. Action also requires persistence. One step will not fulfill destiny. One bold moment is not enough to build a legacy. You must keep moving, keep pushing, keep pressing even when the results are not immediate. Courage is not a single event. It is a lifestyle. It is waking up every day and choosing to advance, choosing to build, choosing to believe again, even after setbacks. Every day you act courageously, you reinforce the foundation of your destiny. The temptation to wait for certainty will always be there. Your mind will search for guarantees, for assurance that everything will work out exactly as planned. But destiny does not operate on guarantees. It operates on faith and courage. The reward comes after the risk, not before it. Action requires you to invest your energy, your time, your belief without seeing the full picture. But it is in the movement that the picture becomes clear. What was hidden reveals itself only to those who dare to move. There are moments in life when hesitation can cost you opportunities that will never come again. Courage demands that you seize the moment, that you recognize when destiny is calling an answer without delay. Action is not about waiting for a sign in the sky. It is about being bold enough to create movement right where you are. Every time you take a courageous step, you shift the atmosphere around you, you attract resources, you draw the right people, and you create momentum that propels you forward.